I'm Gabrielle. You can find me either slowly hiking the mountains or coding new features on granite.
Hey, I'm Esteban. I'm a coder and entrepreneur, and I love to be in the mountains from backcountry skiing to alpine climbing. Very excited to share our app with you today. If you're backcountry skiing, mountaineering, or hiking in BC and Alberta, you want Granite. From 3D offline maps, winter satellite, avalanche layers, and all the community features like trip reports and expert collection, everything's on Granite.
Hey, I'm Daniel. I'm a mountain athlete and ski patroller and entrepreneur based in North Vancouver, BC. We partnered with experts like Eric Carter, Ollie from the Uptrack, and Adam Campbell to bring you safe and epic ski lines from beginner to experts.
Hey, I'm Nora. I'm a backcountry skier, a mountaineer, and a Team Canada ice climber. We have new features released every week. I'll be here to share the latest updates and events on social media. Make sure to follow us.
For the rest of us, we were going to start in the east anyhow, so we're probably going to just first off, we already talked about who's been out skiing. Our usual rotation for these nights is we kind of start in the east, talk about K-country conditions, Banff, maybe the Purcells, where I know Mark's been skiing, and then we'll go west to talk to Zoe about Revelstoke area, so central BC. And then we usually lap around a second time just to let everyone look at the forecast and see what might be skiing good this coming weekend, where you should be going next week, that kind of thing. Then we take a 15-minute break, let everyone get another 45 minutes to an hour. When we come back, answer any questions from the audience. So for sure, anytime tonight, if you have a question, throw your hand up or just yell it out. It's kind of fun to have back and forth. And we'll get all the questions at the break as well, if there's any people that are too shy to yell it out. And then after the break, we'll answer those questions. Then we're also going to talk a little bit tonight about skiing couloirs, because it seems like lots of people have been skiing couloirs this year. So we'll talk about the early season considerations for skiing couloirs.
Stupid.
It can be awesome. And it can be a little bit different challenges than skiing some of the other slopes for skiing. So that's the plan for the night. Usually it takes about an hour and a half. So it's like, for some of you, sort of a 3-beer timeline, 4-beer timeline. See how quick you are. Well, you guys probably already know. I get the impression, even those of you that didn't put your hand up to say you've been skiing this year, you've probably been following the avalanche forecast and sort of looking at the mountains and snow. So you probably know what conditions are like a little bit out there, but we're going to get Darren Vonk up here from K-Country to help us talk a little bit about conditions. Darren, I'm not going to give you the mic here, but maybe you just tell us like maybe how the season has been to date. And we'll check in with Mark and Zoe the same way. Just kind of like, maybe was it a bit of a late start, historically speaking? Was it mild? Did we get a lot of snow in any storms? Kind of how we got here? Okay.
Thanks, Kevin. And Darren Vonk, always fun to be here. Kind of sure you guys going into the season. So, who's been skiing in K-Country?
But like now that I know.
Couple words. How's it been? Wow, Brent, good for you. Yeah, and yourself? Where did you venture to? Okay. Yeah. Pretty easy. When was that? Perfect. Did you report him in? Bust. Up by Highwood. Yeah. So that's been a couple of spots. So the Highwood's been skiing. I mean, okay, I suppose. Arethusa. So if you're familiar with the area, Arethusa, it's kind of on the southeast side of the highway there. It's kind of actually got a grassy base. And that actually is one of the places that skis okay this time of year. You're not worried about as much rock underneath the snowpack as you are in a lot of the other places in K-Country. Chester's been skiing okay, but mostly more just for getting exercise and sliding around. If anyone's kind of keeping track of the snowpack, we've got roughly, 60 centimeters would be on the high side of snow in the area, and more commonly 20 to 40. And then true to classic K-Country, wind scoured anywhere that's kind of proud and high in the Alpine. With that, low elevation, traveling through the meadows has been non-existent. There's been no snow at all in Valley Bombs, places like Commonwealth, stuff like that. You're fully walking in the weeds. That being said, if you're able to tough it out and get through that terrain, people are finding some nicer turns up high and isolated pockets up high where the wind's kind of been drifting snow in, and people are getting some reasonable turns. So we've been told. None of us have ventured out that way at all. Just we're not willing to suffer through all the alders and Valley Bombs right now. But about a week ago, we got that good storm that K Country kind of got the tail end from. We got about 20, 25 at most. And that did kind of get a little bit of people out and about. And yeah, we were chatting with people. People were having okay skiing. The West definitely got way better conditions than we did, but that's not uncommon for us. Other place I'm skiing reasonable or people can go into is up in the Purcells Pass. That's kind of a little bit of a wetter zone within the area. If you're willing to do the big walk through the trail and the bog at the bottom, you can find some nice kind of mellow alpine slopes up high. It's worth a nice big beautiful day up in the pass right on the BC border there. And that can produce some nicer early season fitness. It's a longer day to kind of get to and from that area. The rain that came in early November, that kind of set us up in a way short term to kind of give us a supportive pack. I was walking around in kind of skiable, but just walking to another day and fully staying off the ground. I was staying about 15 centimeter ski pen and supportive for as far as I could go. So travel was actually pretty reasonable during that blue patch last week. I was just out really enjoying the weather, being up high, and it was pretty reasonable. In terms of kind of avalanche activity, there's been a little bit going on. There's been a couple natural wind slaps, a little bit of sloughing of that new snow on that rain crust last week, just post the storm. Nothing significant, but there's been a couple small skier accidentals that have happened. No involvement, luckily, on our side, but some people have had some lessons learned, which has been great. We all get them at times. So overall, K Country is off to a slow start. We keep track of every snowflake that falls in K Country. That's actually quite an easy job. And right now we're about in 27 years of paper data keeping. We're in one of the 3 slower starts to the season. So it has been a slow start for us. But this last week did bring us closer to on par with some of the other years. So it's early. It's only, well, I guess it's late November now, but yeah, it's well on the way. It's a good time to skate and fitness, get all your gear ready and see what December brings. Yeah.
Chat again a little bit about looking forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Darren. We'll bring Darren back in a little bit. Darren and I are going to talk about cool waters a little bit later and probably ask him a little bit about sort of conditions going ahead with the next forecast in a bit too. If we just look a little bit west from there, Banff, I'm guessing that's where most people have been skiing. Hey, Banff, Yoho. Yeah. The Bow Summit seemed like where everyone was going first. Makes sense. The road, you can get up to 2,200 meters to get started there. So that helped out a lot because that rain line, that'd be like early November. We're calling it November 10th or 12th rain crust. But that rain line was right around that, say, 2,200 meters elevation. So when you're above that, you're above that rain crust mostly. So that's why Bow Summit was great. I know some people have been going to what's the lake? Sherbrooke Lake, and you start pretty low there. That trail must be pretty rough down low, is it? Yeah, but passable. And then you got that anywhere you got a summer trail like that. Taylor Lake would be another one where you start like too low to ski really, but you have a nice summer track or trail, get you up higher. And then yeah, you hit that 2,000 to 2,300 meter mark and starts to get to be decent coverage. All of you guys who put your hands up earlier have been out skiing. How many of you is this like your 3rd or more season in the Rockies? Like, yeah. Okay, so those of you that have your hands up right now, think back. How many seasons have we had? I mean, what's on the ground? At tree line, we're saying there's like 70 to 90 centimeters of snow on the ground. Lots of years you would have that, but it would just be like sugar, right? And you'd still be touching the bottom. This year actually feels pretty consolidated, right? Like you may only have 70 centimeters, but you're not really touching the bottom. You're just hitting rocks that are 80 centimeters tall. But yeah, so in that sense, it's been a pretty good early season. And if you go out there and dig a profile, or I know on the Min right now, Parks Canada has a couple profiles up for you to look at. And if you look at that, there's no like real obvious weakness in the snowpack yet. Often we'd already be talking about depth tour at this point. And if we get a cold snap, let's say we get minus 15 as a high for the next 2 weeks, we're going to start getting depth tour or fastening happening. So might as well enjoy it while we can. And I've already sort of been paying attention to some of the spots that have been getting tons of traffic because they were skiable early, compacted that base, and then you could ski on those tracks every time we got new snow. Bow Summit Jimmy Jr. Bowl was good for that too. And yeah. Where anyone want to share where the best skiing's been so far this year? What's been your favorites? My best turns were Bow Summit. I know it's lame to say Bow Summit, but had a great day there. So how about you guys? Anything good?
I was just
Crowfoot Lake, so you could get across the marsh and everything. I was a little scared of that. I almost went there last week actually, but I thought it'd be wet. Okay.
Rogers this past weekend skied really well.
Rogers Pass, yeah, totally. I bet that was good. And I definitely hear that Ogden benches were good for a couple days there for people. So Crystal Ridge, yeah, really? On the west side, or did you drop over onto the east facing slopes? Yeah, the backside, so that'd be the east. Yeah, okay, sweet. Yeah, I bet those would be good. And then did you come back up and over there? Okay, so you could get. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Probably a little tough to get down one sort of elevation band, but the rest of it was okay. Or okay, that's awesome. I'll add that to the list. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Belcoir's probably been good for some, and then I think there was an Avalanche too. But yeah, good skiing. Yeah. It sort of brings up one topic. Like often early season like this, people go and look for places that have that like summer snow coverage, something like Belcoir that has a bit of ice and fern snow, like snow from previous winters that doesn't melt out totally, because you can ski on that and not hit ground then, right? So even if you have 50 centimeters, 40 centimeters on top of it, it can ski pretty good. It does lead to a different sort of snowpack though. Where there's no other weaknesses, there you have one extra layer that needs to bond. That's the seasonal snow to the previous snow and ice. So definitely just something to consider when we start venturing out onto those lines that have permanent snow and ice on them. There'll be a different layer there. Yeah, I mean, it's not that much different than Cape Country, so I won't go over like the whole season to date, but that's kind of where we're at. That rain early November. Then a nice big storm, which I think Lake Louise said they got 58 centimeters in 3 days. Up around, north of there a little bit, there was maybe 70 centimeters in that storm almost, which was great. Everyone got really excited, a lot of happy faces. We were stuck on 93 North for 2 hours though when a bus jackknifed. Was anybody else in that lineup with me? Oh yeah, you were, yeah. That was like a 2-hour lineup. That was good. Definitely felt like winter all of a sudden. Yeah, and now we're just, that's all settled out. Things are skiing pretty good, and just waiting for the next storm, and hopefully it comes in a little colder so we get more snow down low and can approach things better. I think that's probably a decent little roundup. If we go a little bit further west, our friend Mark Herbison, I think, was at Century Lodge last little while. Mark, can you hear me now?
Yeah, how do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We just turn it up a little bit. Hey, when I was trying to introduce you, I usually introduce Mark as just a mountain ninja. He's an amazing climber, amazing skier, does everything. Now ultra runner even, apparently. Does everything.
Tried it out.
Really, really well. But from a work perspective, are you working with parks these days? I know you've been parks visitor safety in the past.
Yeah, I've been back to work with Glacier National Park in Rogers Pass for the last month or so.
Amazing. And am I right that you just got out of the Century Lodge?
Yeah, I spent 5 days up there over the weekend during the storm, and it was. I'll touch on it during my little briefing of the Purcells, but it was fantastic skiing.
Oh man, I bet I'm totally jealous already. But yeah, well, why don't you? Good to see you. Why don't you let us know how things have been in the Purcells?
Yeah, sounds good. I'm gonna share my screen, so just let me know when it comes up. All right. So yeah, I started skiing early November, and I usually go off of the Kicking Horse ski resort weather plot. So as soon as it reaches about 60 to 70 cms, I usually start skiing around Golden in the 12-mile area, Gorman Lake, Holt, Lang. And a lot of these locations are accessed via logging roads. So early season, we didn't have much snow down low, so we were able to drive pretty much up to the landing pad, or like about 16 to 1700 meters, and then ski tour from there. Travel through, below tree line into tree line was quite thin, so quite hazardous, mainly on the down. Just take your time on the way up and then really slowed it down on the way down, but it was reasonable. And then once reaching the Alpine, looking for kind of like plainer, smoother slopes. So scree slopes in the area, or we don't have a lot of meadows or grassy zones, but scree slopes, kind of mellower slopes, skied really well. Some of the couloirs in the area were skiing pretty good. They're pretty good deposition zones, so deeper snowpacks in the narrower couloirs. We're skiing pretty decent early season. But approaching them with quite a bit of caution, just worried about, cranking a rock and going ass over tea kettle. As Kevin and Darren mentioned, like we went through a couple storm cycles there, things got warm.
You should tell him we can't see. Oh, there we go.
I think he's sharing his screen, not his window.
Can you see the photo?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, looks good.
Oh, sweet.
Good tracks, actually. I wanna see
So yeah, two warm systems moved through. So we got a decent amount of snow in the Alpine, and then just like hammered rain down low. So rain line was about up to 2,200 meters, and came across this gargantuan snowball that formed within about 100 meters of rolling downhill. It's like a Indiana Jones type situation. That thing probably weighs over a ton.
the whole new hazard.
Yeah, exactly. But pretty good skiing in the Alpine considering early season. And then, as you mentioned, Kevin spent the last 5 days in Sentry Lodge on a training trip with Golden Search and Rescue. So we were just up there working on transceiver searches, companion rescue. We had a couple avalanche dogs training up there, avalanche scenario, crevasse rescue, just kind of getting prepped for the season. So we arrived the day before the storm rolled in, and then it just proceeded to nuke on us for about 48 hours. Got 60 centimeters within that time frame, bringing the height of snow at tree line up to about 130 centimeters. And the snow came in pretty light and fluffy, so it was a deep trail breaking, like knee to mid thigh deep trail breaking up through pretty mellow terrain. We stayed out of any steep terrain for the first 2 days after the storm, pretty much, because the snowpack nearly doubled from 80 up to like 130, 140. So we just wanted to let it stabilize. We were seeing some natural activity. So on the left-hand side of the photo, there's a size 2 avalanche that was probably triggered by wind loading. It was right along the ridge line, midship, if people are familiar with the Sentry Lodge terrain. So it was about 50 to 70 centimeters deep, 80 meters wide, and ran probably 300 meters down into the flats below. And that was mid-storm, near the tail end of the storm. And then if you look on the right-hand side, there's 9 tracks that come down. So there's a 2-day span between when that avalanche happened and when we skied that slope. So we allowed the snowpack to stabilize. The storm came in warm and bonded to that crust that was down, the November 19th crust that was now buried 60 to centimeters deep at that point. But it had that time to heal. The storm ended cold and bonded to that crust quite well. And at the top of the slope, we dug a profile and had hard resistant planar results repeated in a column test. And we felt pretty good about shredding up to, that's probably about a 38-degree slope, morainal type feature. And then we were also seeing a lot of glide crack activity, not just in the Esplanade area, but also we've seen it quite a bit around Golden. And it's likely due to the warm temps. Like if we have pretty abnormally warm November. So we were seeing glide cracks all through the Purcells. And then this one, it's kind of hard to pick up with the shadow line there, but there's a rock slab that released to ground from a glide crack release. Called it a size 3, ran all the way down to the lake, and it actually cracked the lake and probably sent a wave. across the lake, there was a bunch of ripples along the far shoreline, which is pretty interesting. So we decided not to cross that particular spot and just hug the shoreline up on land. And then I'll flip to another photo here, but if you look just to the right of the large glide crack release, there's a smaller one to the right. And then the very next day when we came by, it had opened up by about 3 meters. You can see that a bit better in this photo. The large slab release on the left, and then that glide crack that opened up another couple meters on the right-hand side. So they're pretty unpredictable. You know, people talk about who've done avalanche control for years, talk about trying to hammer these things with explosives and tossing, 100-kilogram shots into the cracks to try to get them to go in the spring, and they don't move, and then temperatures change by a couple degrees and the whole thing releases to the ground and creates a size 4. But
yeah, we should maybe mention that because I feel like there was a report in the Rockies recently of a glide crack somewhere. Anyone else see that? Purple
Also-
Lake Louise. Okay,
also-
thanks.
Also, Ogden.
Ogden. Okay,
is a
yeah, sweet.
big-
So they do pop up in the Rockies, but they're pretty rare. Like you could easily ski 5-10 years there without seeing one. But when you move further west, especially move west to the Monashees, like west of Revelstoke, they're really common. And it's basically the whole snowpack. Like you can see the whole snowpack just pulling away from itself and starting to glide downhill. And yeah, they just open these moats. If you're in Japan, they're everywhere because the ground is warm. And so you can just, the snowpack's just creeping downhill and this crack opens up. And like Mark said, they're really hard to predict. I know the little bit of heli skiing I did, Mark, we used to just stay away from them. As soon as that crack would form, you just would not be downhill from them until they release naturally. And it might not happen all winter, or it might happen next week. And either way, you just make sure you're not below them. Does that sound about right? You got any other tricks for dealing with glide cracks, Mark?
yeah, I just tend to try to stay away from them for sure. Like I have skied up on top of them and aired off them by accident before, and it's like fallen into a crevasse. Depending on how far it's released down slope, you're either slamming into the downhill side or airing over the crack. But yeah, they're just typically an early season and late season hazard with the warmer temps.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that's why we don't see them here, because usually the ground's cold, the bottom of the snowpack's cold, everything's cold. But
yeah,
thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the Purcells. Just generally horrible travel down low, good travel up in the alpine into the tree line. And then I'll briefly touch on Rogers Pass. Zoe might have a little bit to add as well, but so we have a bit of a below average snowpack at the highway level right now. It's about 45 centimeters. The ski out, most people are skiing in the Canot drainage. I think my first day up there was early November, maybe November 9th or 6th or something like that. And the park staff counted 150 people skiing up the Canot drainage. So that's quite a few for early November. And there's, I think, most lines got skied that day. The skiing was quite nice in the alpine, and even the ski out at that point, early November, skied quite well. I was really surprised, and it carried quite well. After the first rain event and warm event, a lot of the snow melted, lots of rocks, dirt, and just debris was exposed. So there was a lot of caution to get out of there at the end of the day. In Rogers Pass, I'm only aware of the one avalanche involvement so far. It was actually the day that we were skiing up there at Blue Pass. And there was a person that was pulled over some rocks and partially buried and maybe lost his ski, but they were all able to get out on their own without injury, which was great news. We've had one heli sling rescue earlier this week for a knee injury, just dealing with low snowpack issues coming out of the hospital drainage, lots of pungy trees, and just snagged one and tweaked her knee. So we flew her out for that. Height of snow at tree lines about 120 centimeters. and settling out fairly quickly. Like everywhere else, we have a melt freeze crust up to 2,200 meters with 40 to 60 cms on it now, settling out. But it's also bonded quite well in the Rogers Pass area. The crew was out today and they were getting hard resistant planar results on it. Right at the crust storm snow interface, we typically would expect faceting to occur just right above the crust, and that being a very easy sliding layer, but that hasn't happened yet, and it's bonding quite well. And what else can I say? Yeah, the mid pack is super supportive. I haven't really hit any rocks skiing up there yet, though I'm skiing quite cautiously still. Even though it feels good and I want to start charging, I'm just worried about having an early season injury, so I'm not giving her too much.
Yeah, that makes sense. There was two things you said, well, other than the glide cracks. One was that someone got hurt with just small trees that were barely buried, kind of the early season hazards you call them. And yeah, getting hurt early season would suck. I'm sure everyone here is looking forward to a good long season. So, and then the other one you mentioned, like early season, looking for smooth, planar slopes, just so you didn't hit rocks, I think, right? And lower angle as well, just so you're not punching through the rocks. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially around the Golden area, just with the lower snowpack, height of snow. Yep, just trying to find smooth areas so we're not cranking into rock.
Yeah, I think that probably still really applies for everybody out here in the Rockies. It's like as soon as you go steeper, you're just digging deeper into the snowpack, and hitting rocks. And so it's like early season, you just want the things to look the smoothest, broadest, most boring slope you can find, and not too steep. And then you're probably not going to hit rocks and can enjoy it. I'm sure Rogers Pass, you can already start to have some more fun lines, eh?
Yeah, people are skiing everything. Like I know like STS has been skied and some of the tighter couloirs on Ursa's and Christmas couloir, and yeah, people are getting after it.
Nice. Maybe we'll swing back to you just to look into the future a little bit with like the forecast and stuff. But I wanted to go a little further west and see if we have Zoe Ryan on here today. Zoe, you on?
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, hello, nice to see you again. Everyone, Zoe Ryan's with Avalanche Canada. She's a ski guide, but also a forecaster for Central BC and I guess kind of all over BC, aren't you, Zoe?
All over. Yeah, we forecast everywhere from the Yukon to Nelson, pretty much.
Amazing. Well, I think, in our driving circle, we're probably not going to get much further than ready, but I'd love to hear what you've been seeing out there so far. You've been getting out skiing? What have you been up to?
I actually haven't been skiing anywhere around here. I was at Jumbo 2 weekends ago. Really good early season turns there. I should have piped up earlier when we were talking about the Purcells, but I haven't stepped outside around here, which is a shame because it sounds like it's been really good skiing.
All right. Well, what were you forecasting for recently then? What have you been seeing in the forecasts?
Today was my first day on the desk, and I was writing for around here, Columbia's and north into the North Rockies. And Mark gave a great summary about Rogers Pass there. I think the biggest thing this season is the difference between low elevation and alpine and tree line. Like Mark said, it's super bony down low. Like the ski hill here delayed opening. And I was saying that they could run mountain biking down low and skiing up high on the Stoke right now because it is totally bare in town, historical lows below tree line. And as you get higher up, the skiing is pretty awesome. About 1,600 meters is where you see that really marked difference between survival skiing, alders, creeks, to some really great supportive snow.
Nice. That really limits you guys' options. I mean, everyone needs a truck to go up logging roads then, I guess, right?
Yeah, so if you're not going to Rogers Pass, it makes it a little tricky around town. I know people have been getting to McRae recently. I'm not sure if anyone's been there since last weekend's storm. That, 30 to 60 centimeters of storm snow probably made that logging road a little more tricky. They're also not plowing the gorge this year. So to get up there, unless you own a snowmobile, and what else? Sail Mountain. People have been driving up that road, getting to around 1,400 meters and touring from there. but tricky access in general in Revelstoke right now.
Okay, and then when you're looking around the rest of the province or even out there, are you kind of seeing similar, like no real layers of concern so far? Sort of that same rain crust, I guess, 2,200 meters and below, but what are you calling it? I think I saw most of your regions were saying mod low low today, but I didn't look at the avalanche problems.
Yeah, you bet. Like kind of throughout Western Canada, we've got that rain crust from the warming that was in mid-November. Like Mark said, in general, it feels like it's bonding pretty well. And at the moment, we're in a cooling trend. We're gonna get into high pressure this weekend, and it's feeling like a pretty good time to get after it in the alpine and tree line. You know, if you can get through the rugged travel below tree line, that's probably your biggest hazard. We're just kind of dealing with some lingering wind slab problems up high. The exception to that being northern BC. They're having a little bit of a different winter where they've got some snow down low and they're more into full winter mode. But it's seeming like for the rest of the province, we're into this cooling trend. We've got a brief high coming this weekend, and things are feeling pretty good.
This might be the happiest report we've ever had from you when it comes to stability. That's great.
I know, I love it. I hate coming on here and just being the doom and gloom. It's nice to just give a good report.
Awesome. You know, we were gonna like go back around, just maybe look into the future and look at the forecast and weather, but you kind of already alluded to it. So maybe we'll start with you and work our way back east. What are you seeing for forecasts? Like if we were driving out your way for this weekend or into next week, you said high pressure, any storm on the way, any change, avalanche danger expected?
Yeah, we've got a high pressure Arctic ridge coming in from the north, so that's bringing a cooling trend, not super cold temperatures. Definitely not cold for all of you Rockies people. You'll think it's tropical, but you know, -10, some nice clear skies, looking for like a great weekend to get out there. But fortunately, that cooling trend and that high pressure looks like it's pretty short-lived. So nice weekend, and then we're back into a more active weather pattern. Nothing super substantial on the horizon, but looks like we're going to keep getting dribs and drabs throughout next week.
Okay, nice. Yeah, you know, we'll be thinking about you with that -10, you poor thing. Awesome. Thanks, Zoe. Maybe we'll bounce back here to Mark, and then after the break, we were going to talk a little bit about skiing couloirs and especially early season, maybe some of the concerns there. And you're welcome to chime in with your advice there if you want, but no pressure either if you have a busy night ahead of you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks. Hey, Mark, if we're thinking your way, like Purcells around Golden, sort of same thing, Arctic pressure coming your way, and then not much change really in the avalanche or ski conditions for the next week, or what do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I just like copy and paste what Zoe just said. Not much going on the next couple days into the week, and yeah, cooler temps maintaining.
Nice. What do you have on the horizon? I guess there's probably not a lot of ice climbing for you right now. Are you skiing mostly?
Mainly skiing. I've done one day of ice up on the Stanley Head wall, but hoping to get a bit more in soon. Actually, I have to head to Vancouver on Sunday for the week. So we'll see. Maybe I'll go check out Whistler or go hang out in the rain on the coast.
You know, Ski Hill has a location in Squamish as well, so make sure you swing by there.
Ah, perfect.
Darren, can you help me out with what's going on around here? Maybe what we're looking ahead to for avalanche conditions for everyone getting out this weekend, and then even, you know, we won't be meeting again for another month. So if we can look into our crystal ball, what are we most worried about? Most excited about, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the weather, it looks like we're going to hit our first -20 coming this weekend. So, carbon pace to what Zoe and Mark were saying. Temps are slightly dropping, -15, 18, even 20 on Sunday. So cooler temps, but blue skies. So it'll be nice just to get out and go for a walk and just, you know, remember what it's like to be in those temperatures. And I mean, Zoe said it, in the long term, the 10-day forecast is drips and drabs, maybe 10 centimeters coming. Not enough to really change anything hazard-wise, danger rating-wise. It's going to kind of stay the same. I think right now we're kind of sitting at, I think we're low, not rated, which is probably going to stay as such until the next real big storm when we get kind of above threshold. But yeah, a little bit of cold weather. It should be beautiful blue this weekend, which should be really enjoyable. And then maybe some cloudier skies, some precip in next week. But forecasts aren't showing for a lot at the moment. So
awesome. Sounds like good skiing. Cold temperatures. Just have to be careful that we don't hit anything. But enjoy the powder up high if you can deal with the approach. And it's a green brick out there right now, right? Low, low, low at all three elevations. Looking, the only avalanche problem anyone's listening around here really is wind slab. So winds have been, I think the winds they've been worried about have been out of the southwest. So, you know, up on ridgetop, northwest side especially, you're looking for any spot where there's a bit of stiff snow might be triggering. They've seen some smaller wind slabs in the last few days at the ski hills and other places. So it's kind of our only hazard. That's pretty darn good. Go Fred, just don't hit
I'll just add
anything.
one more thing, Kevin, if I can.
Yeah, please.
So I guess early season hazard, if you decide to go on a glacier this weekend, like it might be a decent time to get up high and walk around in the sun. But the crevasse hazard, the crevasse openings are large, and there's a lot of them right now. You know, looking at areas like Young's Peak or the backside of Bruins Pass, the Lily Glacier. There's way more crevasses than historically we've seen there. I don't have any photos with me right now to show you guys, but there's just a lot. So if you do go, make sure you have like the proper gear, practice crevasse rescue.
Yeah, you know, usually we don't around here. A lot of people aren't even getting on the glaciers this time of year, but I actually could see that happening this weekend, get up on the Wapta or something for some people. So yeah, definitely worth thinking about. Early season, the snow bridges that are there are really thin and weak, and then the crevasses are big and wide open, like Mark said. Yeah, we often say it's like just an immature snowpack this time of year. I mean, it hasn't like consolidated that much, even though we're saying it's keeping you off the ground. I sure wouldn't be trusting any snow bridge that went over any crevasses right now. We sort of always cover it. If you guys have been to these, especially in the spring, we're always talking about the depth of snow on the glaciers, and you know, people are probing to see if there's 2 meters, 3 meters, whatever. Right now, there's probably 80 centimeters on there, meaning that if there is a hole below you, there's only 80 centimeters of pretty young snow on top of it. So yeah, definitely great reminder, Mark. Thanks. Especially out in Rogers Pass, I suppose everyone will kind of be heading up that way. Yeah, I mean, I thought there was one more thing to take away from Darren's talking about K Country. Oh, Darren, we were gonna just mention that if you are going to K Country right now, or Crowfoot, I guess is okay, but if you're trying to get over to West Nile or Granddaddy, all those creeks and rivers aren't frozen yet. We haven't really had a big cold snap, and we haven't had that much snow to bury them. So anywhere you have to cross water, a lot of people are just going and getting their feet wet. Like, take your Crocs with you and put your ski boots on the other side. That's been happening. Darren had a good point there. There used to be a trend in K Country, and he's hearing it coming back or maybe somewhere else you heard that, but take an aluminum ladder with you and just telescopic across the creek, and then just walk across the ladder, kind of like you always see the crevasses on Everest, something like that. Doing that to get across the creeks in K Country right now. But also on 93 North, if you want to get over to West Nile, especially. The Bow Lake was still open last week when I was up there. I'm sure Hector Lake is still open. So if you have a canoe, you could go canoe across there and go to the pulpits. Might ski okay when you get up high, but need the boat. Yeah, that was it for K Country. Hey, I thought I had one more point, but I'm kind of forgetting it. Yeah. All right, should we get started again? I think we should. I was able to go around and get a couple of questions. One of them was a really good one. It probably pertains to what our whole rest of the season is going to look like. So we often get together here in November and talk about our Halloween rain crust, our early November rain crust, and we're always preaching, we'll be talking about this Halloween rain crust all year, and there'll be avalanches on it all winter. And everyone's kind of depressed. This year, I mean, it's a really happy snowpack, isn't it? Like, we look out there, there's no persistent weak layers. There's no rain crust yet. There's nothing that's going to like dominate our talk of the snowpack for the rest of winter, which is really great. Super optimistic. But we should also just check a little bit of that optimism. We only have 90 centimeters of snow on the ground at best, really, at tree line. And Anyone who's lived in the Rockies for a while will know the sort of magic rule of thumb for faceting. If we have 90 centimeters, how cold does it have to be to make that snowpack facet? Anybody? How much? Oh, anybody else want to yell it out? 90 centimeters. What's the rule of thumb? How many degrees Celsius for every 10 centimeters? All right. So if we have 90 centimeters on the ground, how cold does that have to be to start faceting? Yeah, say minus 10 or anything colder than that. It'll be faceting. Are we likely to get minus 10 or colder than that in the next few weeks? Yeah. I mean, almost certainly what's on the ground right now is going to start to facet. In other words, right now it's this dense, strong snow that's holding us off the ground and skiing really nice. 2 weeks from now, it might not have that. I mean, it sounds like I was talking to someone, the forecast might turn back around and get warm again, mild, which will prevent that. But at some point, it's probably going to be colder than the snowpack is deep, and we're gonna get past it. And if that lasts for a long time, lasts for, I don't know, 3 weeks, then we'll start getting that depth hoar, and we'll be back to having that basal weakness, that weakness at the base of the snowpack that we're so used to. So, moral of the story is you really need to enjoy this week. Get out there, guys. Ski it all. Zoe, are you on there? I wonder if I could get a little backup on the going forward discussion, because I'm sure it's different for the rest of the province. That's not really an equation that'll happen everywhere. But when you're forecasting for around Revy, or if you're looking back to your Rockies days, do you have anything you can add to that or help me explain that for people?
Yeah, it's so tough, hey, to like look into the crystal ball and try to figure out what an entire season's gonna do. I think you're right. Like moving forward, what I'm thinking about is we're gonna see some cooler temps. We've got that rain crust that's only 60 centimeters down in the snowpack around here. Like my hope would be that this rain crust just gets buried and squished and it's not going to be a big deal, but we're definitely going to be looking to see if there's faceting happening above that crust and if that develops into a persistent weak layer.
Right. Yeah, and I think Mark mentioned that too. Actually, he was saying that he was surprised there wasn't faceting on top of the crust already. The crust here, we're not as worried about the crust because I don't think many people are skiing below 2,100 meters. But I'm sure out where you guys are, that's more of an issue. We had a couple other questions. Can we just get them shouted out? I heard one on this side of the room. Anybody got anything? You got nothing? Okay. Anybody over here? I feel like you're just being shy. There's no way we described or explain things that well that you have no questions. Okay. Well, then the second half we wanted to talk a little bit about cool water skiing, and the reason being that so far that's been something where people have been getting a little more active, at least around here, and it sounds like Rogers Pass as well. So I was gonna bring Darren back up, and then we'll also, I think, check in with Mark. If you're still there, we'll probably check in with you in a couple minutes here, because well, I know you like skiing cool waters, and you're mentioning some of the ones at Rogers Pass. But for us out here, Darren, it seems like I know you've been skiing outside of K Country a little bit too, right? Yeah. At least on social media and just talking to people in the room and around the shop, there's been a lot of cool water skiing going on. I know I had a little list earlier, but Granddaddy's been skied, Phantom's been skied, Bell Couloir's been skied, Kindergarten, Amers, Cobra. That's right. Yeah. Like some big ones, and some that have like permanent snow and ice below them. So yeah, and it's definitely something I've done in the past too. Like I think sometimes in the fall you get a window for that, but there's some different concerns. I think often we talk about couloirs maybe not having the persistent, like midwinter there might be a window where there's a persistent slab problem all over the Rockies, but in the couloirs it's getting flushed out, so that layer doesn't persist. We think, oh, it's actually safer in there. But early season, we're going to couloirs mostly for, like Mark mentioned, they're good catches. They catch more snow. The wind deposits more in there. And then the sloughs that come down the couloir tend to consolidate the snow a bit more. And so you have a little bit of strength to that snow in there, and you can ski a bit more aggressive. But there's always a fan below. And those are often like more avalanche danger than couloir themselves. I don't know if you've been following the couple accidents that have happened so far. There's been wind slab and then people hit from above as well. Yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or any suggestions or ideas to watch for.
Yeah, I've got some ideas. Thanks. Yeah, I think the couloir season's a really neat thing for all the reasons mentioned before. They're great catchments or deposition zones, so they catch all the snow. You know, they, for lack of a more elegant term, they're the asshole or the butt crack of the mountains where everything funnels down. So that kind of really helps settle in the snow and kind of build up more of a snowpack than other, you know, fans or big bowls and faces. But a couple of those accidents that happened a couple weeks ago now, maybe 8 days ago, was people were skiing in the couloirs post that kind of larger storm, and a lot of times what's above those couloirs on either side of them, and go out, just shout out kind of terrain features. Cornices, big rock walls, maybe bigger fetches or bigger bowls above. So to my previous less elegant kind of statement there, all that stuff drains into those couloirs, into those gullies, into those slashes. So when we're climbing up those or spending time inside those features, all that snow that's hanging on the cliffs above, hanging on the bowls, the rocks, the big mushrooms that form from storms, they collapse, they're unsupported. Especially, I think Kevin's mentioned this kind of infant or this young snowpack. It just doesn't have the strength. The wind hasn't formed it, hasn't pressed it, hasn't settled it. So going into these bigger features, although we're kind of avoiding the thinner snowpack, the rocks, the sharks, the early season hazards, because it has so much more snow in them, you've got to realize the other hazards, which are generally overhead hazards, the hanging snow and the mushrooms, features like that. And then with that, you're skiing these great features and they're full of snow. You get down to the fans and the snowpack fully changes. Right, you get back to the fan of the couloir, and all of a sudden you're back to a 20 or 30 or 40 centimeter snowpack that's just full of rocks. The wind's been disturbing it. It's thin, it's shallow. Where you haven't been hitting rocks for 200 or 400 or 500 meters of great skiing, the snowpack has now fully changed character to a really thin early season snowpack, and that's very different than a couloir in the springtime that's had a whole winter of growth and settlements. So yeah, I think, although the skiing is really good in the couloirs for sure in the fall, you got to also consider the age of the snowpack and what's underfoot and what's overhead, especially post these larger storms, because it's just, couloirs are safe because they're constantly shedding. They're constantly having spin drift come down them, you know, growing that snowpack, making it denser. But, you know, why is that always happening, right? You got a lot of overhead on top of you right now. Actually, there's a good post the other day. It was on one of the skiing sites at the Granddaddy, you know, up on 93 North. The couloirs, like, or the cornice, story is really unsupported. It's this big overhanging beak right now. And that's just a fresh young cornice that's growing, and it doesn't have a lot of strength to it. And those will just peel off with a little bit more wind loading, a little bit more snow, and with no rhyme or reason. So, you know, climbing up underneath that, if anyone's climbed in the Granddaddy, you're boot packing for quite a long time. You're exposed with nowhere to go if that thing should come off, right? So just, yeah, take a moment and really consider, and I'm all for it, and I think it's great, but just consider, you know, we're moving the risk around, and snowpack is a little bit safer to be skiing in, but you have these other risks and hazards that you certainly should be well aware of before you kind of throw yourself into that terrain. That'd be my kind of tips.
Yeah, that's a good point. We probably should have led with that couloirs in general are more hazardous than skiing a wide open run. You have rock walls to hit, you have all that confined space. I think another local guide I was talking to recently was saying that he had talked to a couple of people that had just been hit by a slough from above and you know, got knocked down the couloir, and the skis A-framed on their back, and the skis are, you know, hurting their legs, and they have some injuries from that. And you're just really vulnerable when you're walking up a couloir. There's nowhere to hide, right? So yeah, something to think about. It is just more dangerous inherently than skiing something bigger. But whether it's more dangerous to ski a couloir in November or ski it in February, that really comes down to the conditions. That same guide was saying that the people he talked to were like, what did we miss? You know, because they got hit by a small avalanche from above. And he's like, well, if you think back to your AST1, there's 3 weather factors. 2 of them are snow and wind, and there had been snow and wind that day, and they were watching snow, you know, spin drift on top of them for an hour before, which is a pretty good indication that there's snow loading above you if there's spin drifts happening, right? So even in the couloir, you can often feel really safe, like the wind isn't affecting you there. But hopefully, you can look up and see that there's wind about and it's transporting snow. Yeah. Anything else to add for that? Sweet. Thanks, buddy. Mark, if you're still on, I kind of wanted to check in with you because I know if we looked a little west to Rogers Pass, when we talk about STS couloir and some of those, there's maybe some different considerations. There's a lot more snow out that way, and maybe there's some layers to worry about. Maybe there's more traffic, all that. But I was also remembering that you and I skied Cobra Couloir like probably in October or November a few years back. So
Yeah,
can't act holier than now here.
Yeah, that was a great day with you and Lusty up on Cobra.
I wonder, how couloirs are looking in Rogers Pass. If there's anything you think about when you're approaching maybe couloirs early season versus later in the year, if there's anything that comes to mind when you're doing that.
I guess like I think you touched on it already a little bit. Like you're thinking about what's overhead, how much snow there's been, if it's going to be windy that day, and which direction the wind is coming from, and if it's going to be loading the couloir, and also just the fetch behind it. So how much snow is actually available to get pushed into it. So you've mentioned like the Granddaddy couloir, and there's the Funnel of Death along that same feature. It has a huge fetch behind it. And so snow is just constantly being thrown up and over the mountain and deposited into those lines. Even if it hasn't snowed in a while, like the snow can facet and the wind can still move that snow and blow it into those features. So I'm pretty selective for the days that I go after those objectives, and there pretty much has to be, no wind. And depending on the temperature, I'll factor in aspect and sun effect that can weaken the cornices and bring them down, or start a lot of sloughs in the rock features around the couloir and slough into the couloir and create, a size 1's enough to pull you off your feet and send you tumbling down a steep slope.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, size 1 for sure. By definition, a couloir is a terrain trap. So, increases the consequences of avalanches. So, and Mark had a good point there that what's on the backside, does everyone know what a fetch is? I'm usually here to translate things. So a fetch is just like the area where wind is going to pick snow up from. So if we have a mountain like this right here and wind is coming up, depositing snow on this side, I think everyone knows when you look at the avalanche bulletin, the wind slabs are on the lee side. But the windward side where it picks up the snow is called the fetch. So if this is a big massive football field of loose snow, then there's going to pick up a lot more snow. Whereas if this is all rock, there's not much of a fetch. There's not much snow for wind to transport. So I think what he's getting at is the back of Bow Peak there, where Granddaddy is a big slope that has a lot of snow on it. So makes sense that cornices form there. And then one other thing for you, Mark, when you're hiking couloirs, I wonder, like, do you ever think much about like trying to stay? Sometimes you'll try and stay to the side to like limit your overhead hazard and just find a little safe on, nooks and crannies along the way. Or do you just look for the fastest, maybe the runnel in the middle lets you hike faster, so you're out of there an hour quicker. Is that like an equation you go through sometimes?
Yeah, definitely. Like I want to limit the amount of time I spend in there. So you limit your amount of exposure. So you can either, boot pack up the thing or access it from the top and ski down into it, and then you approach those differently, and there's different things you can do to manage that. But if I'm hiking up, typically I'm looking for the fastest line, so it might be right in the runnel, which exposes you to more sloughs if it is windy or that potential exists for that day. If I can, I'll stick to the sides and ideally, find a fast line close to the edge, but typically it's going to be in the middle, where previous sloughs have come down. And then
seems a little counterintuitive. Hey, is like being in the middle of the couloir, you feel just way more exposed. But if it means you get up and down an hour quicker, then overall you're actually exposed less than if you are messing around on the edge and going really slow. But not always, but sometimes.
Yeah. And then when you're traveling with your group, you want to maintain like the group travels together. You don't want to have one person lagging behind and potentially the upper group triggers a slough or something comes down, and then it allows the slough to gather enough mass and momentum and hit that person below and like smoke them down the slope. So try to travel in a group, you know, and I try not to go out, depending on the objective, like 2 to 3 people is my preferred number. Yeah, I have climbed couloirs with like 8 people in given conditions, but we all stuck together in a group. I guess on that note, if there is another group in the couloir and they're already halfway up, like don't even bother going in there because it's not worth the exposure and having someone trigger something on top of you. We have within the Parks Rescue, we have responded to several incidents like that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But that part about staying together and not spacing out is a bit counterintuitive if you've just taken an AST1 in the last year or two and you've learned, hey, we always space out in avalanche terrain. It's one time when you don't because or usually don't, because if I hike 50 meters to the next safe spot and you're waiting, then you hike the 50 meters, we're going to be there all day and exposed to way more. And then like Mark says too, if I kick something down and it does hit you, it's had the chance to gain speed. And even snowballs and like, you know, cookies of wind slab are coming down, just hitting you really hard. So better if you're both together in that situation and continue up. I mean, it has its own hazards. You're both exposed then if something comes from above. So again, definitely taking on more risk when you're doing the couloir. And there was one other thing you said. Oh yeah, you mentioned about temperature change and just being really wary and looking for the right day when you go do a couloir, Mark. Because here in the next couple of weeks, sounds like we're probably gonna get our first little cold snap and then a bit more warm. And both times that temperature changes, you're probably not gonna want to be in the middle of a couloir, right? Like give it a few days for the snow to accept that heat or cold and kind of come to stasis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. You just typically cornices will release when there's an abrupt temperature change, like you mentioned. So warm to cold or cold to warm. And then with sun exposure, it heats up the rock around it and heats up the cornice more. So just factoring in if it's a sunny, clear day, the solar radiation will be higher. And if it's clouded over, there'll be less solar input.
Yeah, nice. That sun on the rocks thing actually is something I forgot too. We usually don't talk about that till spring because used to it being cold. But yeah, I mean all that rock around the couloir just takes heat and the snow is going to start dropping off all the little mushrooms of snow that have collected on that hot rock. Obviously, if you look up and often like you'll see like streaks or like black bits where you're like, oh, that looks to me like that snow is melting. That's just streaks on the rock. So keep an eye out for that. Obviously, don't want to be there if that's happening. Nice. Anything else? Anything else to add for couloirs? That's kind of my list, Mark.
I guess like when I first started climbing up them years ago, like it was rare that we wore helmets on the way up. It was rare that we carried helmets with us in general. But you know, nowadays, if you're A-framing skis on your pack or snowboard on your back, like wear the helmet on the way up, because if you do get hit by something and tumble down, you'll rattle the skis or board around the back of your head. So just protect yourself.
Yeah, but you look so much cooler with your hair blowing in the wind.
Exactly.
Actually, I was guiding a guy last year, and he was from Colorado, and we were just going up to ski to fans below Granddaddy. We weren't even going up to ski to the couloir, but we pulled up underneath a rock wall just because it's a nice spot to transition and put skis on and everything, or take skins off. And before we were like 50 meters away from the wall, he stops and throws his helmet on. I was like, oh man, that's actually really smart. Like we're gonna put it on to go skiing anyhow, and so why stand below a big cliff with a bunch of snow and rockfall hazard and stuff without a helmet on? Might as well put it on 50 meters early. So I'm pretty sure we're only a season or two away from wearing helmets when we leave the car.
Making sure that the group is confident and Yeah, like if it's like hard ice or super stiff. And also for you to make sure it's just down too long, like, oh, I know there's a soft spot there, but soft there, so trying to think of that.
Yeah, I'll just repeat it for everyone that couldn't hear that. He was just saying, like, as you're hiking up, it's a good chance to look at where the soft snow is, where the icy spots are in the couloir, just for the ski down, so you don't get in trouble and fall and hurt yourself and hit the wall or whatever. But also, I can't tell you how many times when I was young and stupid, we would climb something and then realize like the climb is going great and it's really easy and making fast travel, and then realize you get to the top, like, I don't want to ski this. It's just ice. Like, it was really quick and easy to get up, but now we're here. So yeah, hopefully you guys are all smarter than that and you realize that if the skiing doesn't look good at the bottom, you don't want to climb it. Hopefully you can check that out on the way up. A good tip though. Anyone else? What are your other tips for skiing couloirs? BG, what do you got for skiing couloirs? Anything we're missing? Okay, I don't want to put him on the spot. Anyone else? Yeah, please. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, yeah. So I like this, and actually, you're bringing it all back for me. I used to guide couloir camps, we call them, where we teach couloir skiing. That was one thing we always said too. If you have everything you can ready for the descent, then if you get halfway up and want to turn around, it's a lot quicker. Or if you even get to the top, but the perch that your transition spot isn't very good, hopefully it's easier to get into ski mode. So sometimes, I'll even have my boots in ski mode, maybe not as tight as you want them, but sometimes it's nice to have your boots stiff too, so your calves aren't burning the whole way up. And yeah, the skis ready. Your hands often get wet on the way up, because your hands are in the snow above you and get cold. So kind of those warmer gloves you're probably going to use on the way down. Helmets on. Goggles could be on your helmet, ready to go if you're not a fog up person. Yeah, things like that. Be ready for the transfer down, please. Oh yeah, that's the main one. Take your skins off, put your split board together, get your bindings on your split board. Yeah, take your skins off. Do everything you can in the safe spot at the bottom. Thanks.
I think it's like how Mark was saying, minimizing time in the couloir, so sometimes going up and over, especially if you're getting into things early season where things like the snowpack in the feature might not be as developed. If you do go up the other side, not knowing what the rest of the couloir looks like. I know a lot of couloirs in Rogers Pass, for example, early season might have ice features or cliff fans that haven't filled in yet. If you make it 3/4 of the way down and discover there's a cliff that you have to repel and don't have the equipment for that, you've now got to reverse yourself and go back up.
Yeah, Mark, I might get you back in on this one because this really plays well for you. You mentioned earlier times when you can go up, you don't have to go up the couloir itself, so you can eliminate that whole hour or two of being exposed to overhead hazard by not climbing the couloir, instead going around the backside. You mentioned earlier STS couloir, so that's one in Rogers Pass where you can skin around and start at the top. And Brandon here was just mentioning the opposite, being that you want to know what conditions are like in that couloir before you drop in, especially early season, so you don't bump into ice halfway down. Yeah, you have any decision-making matrix or ideas for that? Like, how do you decide when you're going up or when you're going around?
Yeah, like ideally I try to limit the amount of exposure I place myself in. So if I can ski it from the top, with like easy enough access, I'll probably do that. It's nice to have visual before deciding to go ski the thing on it. So, if you have friends or if you're on the opposite side of the valley, you can take a photo of it and zoom in and see if there's any blue ice halfway down, or if the snow looks kind of gray, meaning that it might be a thin snowpack and lots of rock. Yeah, like preferably, I try to limit the amount of time I spend boot packing up. Like I've boot packed up a ton of different couloirs, but if I can, I'd rather ski it top down.
That makes sense too, because if you trigger an avalanche, it's going to happen below you. Whereas if you trigger an avalanche on the way up, you're in it.
Yeah.
It's funny because I don't know if not much of the room is as old as me, but those that are might remember that like the big takeaway from extreme skiing in Europe in the 70s and 80s was that all the legendary extreme skiers basically died because most of them, or a few of them anyhow, a few famous ones, died by not knowing or not climbing the line first and then skiing it and ended up on steep ice and sliding and having accidents that way. So it kind of became this thing: climb it before you ski it, climb it before you ski it. And just because there were some famous accidents, but really, when you think about it, now that we've had some distance from those accidents, I think we know that it's safer not to be in the couloir any longer than you need to be. Any other couloir tips out there or ideas? Any ones you guys are looking at for this coming weekend, or you don't want to share your secrets? I get it. Yeah, we'll have like a lineup of 8 people at whatever couloir this weekend. Yeah,
Maybe. Oh,
yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
I was just gonna maybe just a safety tip, having good communication within the group. So skiing it one at a time, having a designated safe spot that you're either able to ski into, and then either yell up or call on a radio if you guys have little walkie talkies or something like that similar to communicate, like, yeah, I'm in a safe spot, come on down. Or if you can ski the whole length of the couloir and get out of the hazard zone, that's definitely recommended. Don't like party shred it together.
Yeah, great tip. And when you have your little safe, like most people ski away in the couloir and then their legs max out because you're cranking turns and then you need to pull over. Make sure it's somewhere that you pull over that the overhead hazard, when your friend's skiing it, knocking down snowballs and chunks of ice, they're not going to hit you. Like it has to be a legit sort of little side that you can sneak into, or a little rock you can be behind or under. Or like Mark said, ski the whole thing if you're a tough man. You had another one?
Yeah, school and those skiing couloirs are early season. The couloir isn't going anywhere. If it's not in, you don't need to be the first one to take it in the season.
Good point. Good point, BJ. He's saying basically that like right now skiing couloirs early season's kind of in vogue. It's pretty trendy this year, it seems, for good reason, but also it's not the norm. We're not usually skiing. Most people don't ski aim or couloir before December or whatever, and so it'll be there in the spring too. It'll be there later in the season, maybe next fall or whenever. So definitely, we're not trying to pile on here and make it more trendy than it already is. Anything else with couloirs? Any questions or tips? Nice. Well, I think we're kind of there. I mean, this was often our first Snowpack discussion of the season is like our busiest one, and so much to talk about and so much excitement. But this year it's like a pretty nondescript Snowpack. We're pretty happy about it. So hopefully when we meet again in a month, we'll all be really happy. We'll still have no significant layers. It'll just be twice as deep, and we'll all have goggle tans and be skied out and tired, and it's going to be awesome. Can't wait to see you next month. December 12th, though, the Ski Uphill is having a movie night at the shop. It's Matthew Tuff's new movie, 100 Words for Wind. And it's a movie all about skiing in Iceland, I think, right? Yeah, it's supposed to be really good. It's going to be a fun time at the shop. So swing by. That is December 12th. So probably get tickets on your guys' website, eh? Great. Well, I'm always really thankful that Ski Uphill brings us together every month and does a bunch of extra stuff for us. So can we give them a round of applause and thank you all for coming? Oh, it's really fun to see you guys every month. So we'll see you again next month. Thanks.